In part one of our adventure, Mike and I made our way from Anchorage to Homer. A mere 24 hours after arriving in Alaska, we were already on our way to our second major destination, Seward. Seward is tucked beautifully between the Kenai Mountains and Resurrection Bay. However, we arrived to a very overcast, dreary day, typical for the coastal region. The dreary weather, however, did not put a damper on the birds. Even while we set up camp, orange-crowned warblers flitted in the trees, and little dark birds dotted the water. We quickly made our way down to Waterfront Park and confirmed our suspicions that the dark birds were marbled murrelets, and lots of them. We counted 24, but that was a conservative count. Most were pairs that seemed to be an adult with a juvenile, such as the ones here. The adult is solid dark brown, while the juvenile has blotches of white. We also saw a pigeon guillemot. Beyond birds, something else caught our attention as well. A tour boat had stopped a little ways offshore. What were they looking at? We soon saw spouting mist and large dark humps arch out of the water. Humpback whales. We kept scanning the water's surface, wondering where they would surface next. Did you see the two marbled murrelets fly through the frame there? Let's slow it down and take a closer look. After watching the whales for a while, we decided to head on to our next stop. Only later in sifting through my footage did I realize what had happened the moment I pulled away from watching what my camera was capturing. A whale surfaced to feed. I literally missed seeing this by a second or two. From Waterfront Park, we took a short drive across town to Two Lakes Park, situated at the foot of the mountains. The look and feel of the lush, temperate rainforest at this park was a far cry from where we had just been. The trails were lush, green, and beautiful, full of ferns, mosses, and prehistoric-looking western skunk cabbage, horsetails, and devil's club. Our main avian target here was the chestnut-backed chickadee, which would be a lifer for Mike and one I've desired better looks at than the couple I had had in the past. There were also a few other treats for us to find as well, including this varied thrush that came out for us to have a view. Then, we were lucky enough to watch it sing its eerie and ethereal flute-like song that is inextricable from West Coast temperate rainforests. Next, we caught up to this singing Pacific wren. I couldn't get my camera to focus as it sang perfectly perched out on this branch. Then when I did correct the focus, it decided to scoot. Thankfully, we quickly relocated it as it perched and sang several more choruses of its cheerful, chattering song that seems much too long for a bird of its small stature. Truly amazing. A Townsend's warbler was another notable bird on this walk. Unfortunately, we dipped on chestnut-backed chickadee on 2 separate trips to this park during our time in Seward. Let's watch this little guy sing one more time. Finally taking a break for supper under the cover of this picnic shelter, we refueled for an evening of birding south of Seward to Lowell Point to look for seabirds. The Kitlitz's murrelet was our primary target. The road to Lowell Point fills all the space between Resurrection Bay and the mountainside, making travel slow and stops at a premium when they are safe. When we stopped at this spectacular rushing waterfall, we got more than that as we quickly spotted a pair of harlequin ducks for even better looks than we had had up to this point in the trip. A beautiful pair of male Barrow's goldeneyes were also present. And, to top it off, a pigeon guillemot, along with some entertaining sea lions. We took the trail to South Beach for views of the calm bay. We were rewarded with views of a pair of Kitlitz's merlets. Unfortunately, we were unable to get photos or videos of the birds. And the sea lions caught up to us again too. After this end of the day treat, we decided to call it a day and get some rest for a big day ahead, taking a boat tour to see wildlife and glaciers of Kenai Fjords National Park. We woke to a very rainy, windy, and cold day, not ideal for a boat trip. We waited to confirm that the seas were not too rough for the boat to go. Eventually, they made the call and we were on our way, geared up from head to toe to stay as warm and dry as possible. I was not about to miss our one chance to get lifer horned and tufted puffins. A huge thanks to Mike, who had been on these boat trips before and worked hard to get some great photos and video while I was able to do less on the camera and focus more on the experience. As we boarded, most people opted to stay inside the cabin. I, on the other hand, wasn't going to squander this opportunity just because of a little rain, and sleet, and biting cold. Oh no, what were we getting ourselves into? The discomfort was temporary, but the memories are forever. The views from my perch on the bow were spectacular as the boat raced forward toward puffins, whales, and glaciers. The boat's first stop was at a small flock of little black and white dots on the water. Puffins! Both horned and tufted puffins sat on the water out a ways from the boat, but good enough for lifer views and a few good pics by Mike. Also seen along the way was a flyby sooty shearwater, which was a lifer for Mike. Then it happened. A puff of water vapor and a humped back followed by the large fin of a humpback whale. The boat lingered for great views, much improved over yesterday. Also seen hanging around the rocky ledges and in the water was a playful group of harbor seals, including one splashing individual that drew our attention. Soon after, the boat slowed again. A pod of orcas had been spotted. We watched as they swam close to the boat with their long fins marking their locations. The boat-goers didn't seem nearly as concerned about the rain and cold any longer, not with the excitement of the whales. Then, suddenly, one decided to put on a show and jump out of the water to the delight of the audience on the boat. And it did it not just once, but a second time as well. Nice camera work capturing that, Mike. We were on cloud 9, and we had not even reached the glacier yet. After the orcas had exited the stage, the boat rounded the corner, exiting Resurrection Bay, and took off up Aialik Bay, toward the terminus at Aialik Glacier. Aialik Glacier is approximately 3.5 to 4 miles long and 1.5 miles wide, and is born from the 700 square mile Harding ice field. We had hoped to see the glacier calve a big iceberg, but we only witnessed a small one. For as small as it was still quite audible. Evidence of small calvings were scattered about the water surface, and the crew fished some pieces out for us to hold. As we turned to head back, we were given an up-close look at the gorgeous waterfalls cascading off the surrounding mountains and into Aialik Bay. On our way, we passed this lonely island, and the boat slowed to give us a look at some sea lions loafing on the rocks. After exiting Aialik Bay on our way back to Seward, the boat hit the rough waters of the open ocean. I enjoyed the roller coaster of a ride, with the bow making big splashes as it crashed down from the crest of each wave. When I was able, I again stood at the bow, fighting the elements in hopes of spotting some more great birds. I did briefly spot a Sabin's gull, and later we watched a tight flock of red-necked phalaropes speed their way over the water's surface. At times we would lose them against the surface of the water, until they would flash their bright undersides all at once. We also briefly stopped at a nesting colony of black-legged kittiwakes, where we also found some pelagic cormorants nesting on the rock walls, and a few common murres. After getting soaked in the cold rain and sleet for 6 full hours on the boat, we were ready for our return to dry ground, but had no regrets for enduring the elements in favor of getting our fill of great experiences and memories. We promptly dried out and warmed up before going out to fill our stomachs at Thorne's Showcase Lounge. This retro-style restaurant fit the bill with its signature bucket o' butt, which was fried halibut, and an Alaskan amber to wash it down. The next morning was still cloudy, but the rain had quit and the surrounding mountains were much more visible. Yesterday we experienced a glacier by boat. Today we would experience one by foot. Mike and I hiked to Exit Glacier in the Kenai National Park. Along the hike were markers noting where the glacier had receded from over time. Along the way we, of course, saw some birds. This orange-crowned warbler wouldn't sit still long enough for the camera to focus, but eventually I was able to get some pictures. At the overlook of the glacier, violet-green swallows zipped around through the air and sat for exceptional views on this rope fence. Here's the male, and here's the female. Other birds on the hike included varied thrush, hermit thrush, northern water thrush, Wilson's and yellow-rumped warblers, and fox sparrows. We also enjoyed spending some time walking in the glacial wash, enjoying the surrounding beauty, and viewing firsthand in real time the geologic processes that formed much of my home state of Michigan. On our way north out of Seward, Mike had found a couple of good spots to find some sought-after birds. First was Ava's Place, a set of feeders at a local residence that welcomed birders. Here we enjoyed watching a flock of pine siskins along with 2 pine grosbeaks, and some more nesting violet-green swallows. After Mike had retreated to the car, I watched a chestnut-backed chickadee come into the feeders. At last, Mike would get his bird, but when I called for him to come, he didn't. I finally went over and shrugged my shoulders at him. He had not heard me, but it wasn't too late. He got out of the car and was able to get his bird and snap these photos. Last, we stopped at the Bear Creek Weir, where salmon numbers can be monitored as they migrate upstream to spawn. But on our radar was the American Dipper. Sure enough, we spotted one darting to and fro and realized it was visiting a nest under the eaves of the Weir's building. Watch it zip up into its nest here, and then quickly exit a bit later. Thankfully, it briefly landed in the shallow water of the weir to give us great looks and some video footage to boot. It had been another 24 hours in Alaska, but we had done so much it felt like longer. Now we were headed north for the next leg of our journey. What other birds and adventures would we encounter? You'll have to wait for part 3 to find out. We'll venture north to Sutton, Hatcher Pass, and then east on Highway 1 to Tulsona Lake. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and click the notifications bell to know when the next video is released.